Good afternoon, Governor Beshear and esteemed colleagues. My name is Brandon Clark. I've had the honor of serving as the Fire Chief of Linden and St. Matthews Fire Departments for the past 15 years. Over that time, I have watched the county grow, change, and face its fair share of emergency incidents. Within the last 15 years, I've had the honor of extending resources for my department to assist with the wildfires in Perry County, provided swift water technicians with previous floods, provided resources to mitigate the GE fire, and even adjusted our 10-year plan of the department to include an EMS branch to help serve the citizens of our fine city. That put 5 more ambulances on the street. Our department, as well as I, have served beside each and every one of your agencies, and possibly you, over the past decade to help mitigate insurmountable hazards. As time progresses, though, Rhonda McHurd, Fire Chief for Austin, Texas, said it best. Our service delivery model is all-encompassing. We're not just firefighters. Henry Ford once said, "Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress, and working together is success." There's no better way to describe emergency management and its potential success. As a collective in Kentucky, we must come together, including police, fire, EMS, federal agencies, and hospitals, and work as one. Training together will create a unified approach, one that fosters diverse roles, trust, communication, and a constant state of readiness. The citizens of our fine state demand nothing less. So how do we accomplish this? As the newly appointed director of the Kentucky Emergency Management Agency, I'll have a wide variety of subjects to address and articulate. A few of these areas of interest are emergency management effectiveness during emergency incidents, effectiveness of specialized teams during disasters, fire department's role in the emergency medical services during disasters, developing partnerships in the private sector with elected officials and local public safety and emergency response agencies, working with state and federal agencies, and plans and methods for coordinating wildland firefighting and mutual aid. Finally, we'll take a glance at the current emerging trends that impact emergency response, such as gaining and building trust in communities, taking care of responders, building equity by increasing diversity in emergency response teams, and training, professional development, and methods for preparing first responders and other firefighters for future disasters. As of current, Kentucky's Emergency Management Agency, or EMA, their effectiveness during incidents could best be described or characterized as mixed. The state has implemented systems to improve response times, enhance interagency communication, and uses its participation in EMAC, or the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, to support mutual aid. Even with those positive changes in place, Kentucky's EMA still faces a significant number of challenges. An example of these challenges is funding and recovery, interoperability of EMA with FEMA, and the complexity of applying for recovery funding. The previous director of emergency management, Jeremy Slinker, mentioned the reality is we're just having more disasters, and more disasters that are intense with bigger impacts. Kentucky's EMA has worked towards improving the response times of those needed to mitigate the incidents, create a clear methodology of interagency communication, and started participation in the EMAC for mutual aid. Our focus going forward will be to pick up where Mr. Slinker left off and encourage the pre-incident or pre-emergency planning. We plan to continue canvassing the areas most heavily affected by the previous incidents, such as flooding, tornadoes, and other events, and take an in-depth look at the operating procedures needed to mobilize help to those that need it most. With the help of the public, we will raise awareness, help preparation, and utilize our knowledge to create a more streamlined, effective response. When disaster strikes, we're working in depth with FEMA regarding the funding process and the paperwork trail necessary to make our citizen whole. When looking at numerous articles from local news outlets, it's not hard to see that in the weeks, months, or years that have gone by after an emergency, that it's left our citizens without the recovery funding needed to make themselves whole. This is unacceptable. Kentucky's EMA will continue to work with FEMA and other federal agencies to address the paperwork shortfall and find ways to fast-track the funding that's direly needed after an incident takes place. If you're impacted by one of these storms, nothing is fast enough. And in the process that I have learned about, it is significant. That was said by previous director Jeremy Slinker. We aim to change that. With the rise of disasters, as was previously mentioned, special teams stationed throughout Kentucky have seen an increase in mobilization. Kentucky has a centralized command when the incident reaches a certain scale, and that mobilizes the Kentucky Emergency Management Agency, or EMA. When disaster strikes, the EMA helps mobilize the State Emergency Operations Center. This acts as a central hub for many state agencies during a disaster. This is where the interagency communication and cooperation come into play when mitigating a situation. Groups such as the Louisville Fire Department and the Kentucky National Guard both have special teams units stationed within the state and are often mobilized for search and rescue, life-saving missions, and recovery. The suburban fire departments also, as well as police and other agencies, have created special teams that span the majority of Kentucky and are mobilized in time of need, such as water rescues, collapse, and hazardous materials operations. Performance for the special teams on the local and larger level is managed by the individual district through the EMA Operations Center. The special teams located throughout Kentucky are shown to be highly trained and highly capable to handle the incidents that might be outside the purview of a normal emergency services agency. Within the next 5 years, the focus will be on providing better resources for these teams and more training opportunities. As technology and incidents change and become more complex, being on the cutting edge of technology and training will allow the already capable teams to excel and become more efficient and effective. Throughout Kentucky, as I'm sure with many other states, the role of the fire department and emergency medical services, both during incidents and disasters, is to assess, stabilize, and provide initial care to the victim during their time of need. During the incident, the fire department often arrives before emergency medical personnel and assesses the scene, the patient, and provides initial care where needed. During disasters, it is situational. In Kentucky, fire departments could provide the manpower necessary to triage those in need of medical services, to help emergency medical services in general, and assess and stabilize patients for medical treatment, among numerous other activities. With firefighters in Kentucky acting like the initial first responders and integrating into the larger multi-agency response framework, all agencies utilize the National Incident Management System, or NIMS, to address disasters on a small to a large scale. While most incidents mobilize special teams, over the next 5 years, Kentucky Emergency Management is looking to run tabletop and real-world exercises that involve all state, local, and federal agencies in the area, such as those special teams. With the current operating procedure being assessed in the incident or during the incident, stabilizing and providing patient care during the incident or scenario, Kentucky Emergency Management is exercising options and the roles of those involved in the incident to help create a more efficient and effective response. Kentucky emergency response agencies have a robust partnership with the private sector and elected officials. Collaborations such as the Department of Emergency Management and private companies, healthcare organizations, and nonprofits allow for extensive resources to be available if needed. This partnership also allows outreach and pre-emergency preparedness to take place through various programs that are aimed at all socioeconomical areas. Developing partnerships with the private sector involves creating a whole community approach to emergency preparedness, and this is important because the public and private sectors work together to build a mutual trust, conduct joint planning and training with elected officials, public agencies, and other businesses. These partnerships are important for embracing a community's ability to respond and recover from disasters by leveraging the strengths and resources from each sector when needed. Currently, Kentucky actively develops partners with the private sector, and this is seen throughout the last 10 years of incidents that have taken place, from the derailment in Radcliffe to the train derailment in Radcliffe to the flooding that seems to take place on a more regular basis. Developing partnerships with elected officials and other public emergency response agencies focuses less on the whole community, though, and more on open communication, building trust, and indicating value through clear interactions. Kentucky Emergency Management, or EMA, does an outstanding job on fostering partnerships or a partnership with elected officials in Kentucky. During an incident, they are kept abreast of the situation, always given updates, and potential outcomes. Often, when changes through Kentucky's Emergency Management Services Agency are needed, elected officials are referenced as supporters, or Kentucky EMA actively lobbies them to become supporters. Jefferson County Fire Service, Kentucky's Suburban Fire Department Collective, is a partnership between suburban fire departments and the Kentucky Emergency Services Agency. Kentucky recently upgraded the Suburban Department partnership by adding a +1 initiative. The agreement will allow local departments to automatically provide mutual aid when responding to a fire or emergency, regardless of what patch you have on your sleeve. We want to do what's best for the community, the Colonel Gregory Frederick, Louisville's fire chief, mentioned. A half-mile buffer zone will be set up around each department's district, including Louisville Fire and suburban departments. When there's a call within that buffer zone, units from both the home department and the bordering department will respond. This new partnership allows for Louisville Fire Department to respond to incidents that border between them and the suburban departments. Within the next 5 years, Kentucky's emergency response will take a more in-depth view of this agreement and the partnerships with current suburban departments and see how to enact them throughout the county and the state. Uniformity, training, mutual aid agreements will provide a rock-solid approach to a large-scale incident mitigation. Kentucky's emergency management currently works well with state and federal agencies to coordinate disaster preparedness, response, and recovery efforts for the Commonwealth. On the federal level, Kentucky has an active working relationship with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. Kentucky's emergency management acts as a liaison between the federal and state grant writing and funding. Locally, Kentucky Emergency Management coordinates with state and local managers to align state and local resources during emergencies. This often can be attributed to the mutual aid agreements that are currently present throughout Kentucky, from Hazard or Perry County all the way through Louisville City. Wildland firefighting is an active threat to eastern Kentucky. Currently, Kentucky averages 1,447 wildfires of varying degrees annually. Arson is the leading cause of these forest fires in Kentucky. 99% of all wildland fires in Kentucky are caused by humans. To coordinate wildland firefighting, Kentucky uses a tiered system for suppression involving the Kentucky Department of Forestry, local fire departments, and state and interstate mutual aid agreements. The Kentucky Department of Forestry is the lead agency for suppression efforts. The Department of Forestry coordinates suppression efforts through 9 districts across the state and provides training, resources, and technical advice to rural fire departments that are involved. Although the Division of Forestry is the leading agency in the fighting of wildfires on private lands, there is no one agency that can fight all the wildfires in Kentucky. Oftentimes, wildfire suppression may involve a number of different agencies, as well as rural and city fire departments. On larger fires during times of extreme fire activity, agencies will work together under the incident command system to fight fires. Knowing that it takes a team to mitigate these incidents, the statewide mutual aid agreement was signed in 2025. This agreement enables the local government, fire protection districts, and other first responders across the state to quickly request and provide resources when called upon. The agreement helps streamline the mutual aid agreement process and ensures participating agencies will receive FEMA reimbursement when called into order. Finally, the last thing we will look at is the current and emerging trends that impact emergency response, such as the gaining and building of trust in communities. Gaining and building trust in communities is paramount for emergency services success. Building trust in Kentucky communities over the next 5 years, we will take a fundamental approach to make intentional efforts to help foster empathy, transparency, and trust, utilizing the hierarchy of Kentucky's emergency management in creating focus groups from throughout the area. The hierarchy of Kentucky's emergency management will be humble and vulnerable in their interactions and spend time participating in genuine conversations and asking questions with curiosity. The topics being covered will include pre-emergency planning, accessible resources, and the ideals of the actual incident. Once all of the focus groups are completed, we will gather the input and make sure that all voices are heard. The information gathered will allow us to determine where the shortcomings are for the Kentucky Emergency Management Agency and provide insight into becoming more efficient, effective, and providing better service to the community, which that is paramount. The next thing we're going to discuss is taking care of responders. Just like working with the community, that we ensure we build trust, rapport, and open the lines of communication, Kentucky should ensure that all first responders are taken care of. Mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health are all important topics and on the forefront of discussions. Within the suburban fire departments, both firefighters and EMS workers are provided numerous avenues to help navigate life. From budgeting seminars to psychologists, departments throughout Kentucky are investing in the well-being of first responders who serve the community. Responders such as police, fire, and EMS are encouraged and provided opportunities to assist with their physical health. Looked at through the same lens as professional athletes, responders are provided with time to work out and even given gyms to utilize in their stations to maintain a readiness to respond. Within the next 5 years, the Kentucky Emergency Management Agency will work with public, private, and federal institutions to help enhance the availability of resources to help first responders take care of their emotional, physical, and spiritual health. Without the first responders being on top of their game, our citizens of this state will not have anyone to call when disaster strikes. The goal is to ease the burden those first responders carry and make them the asset they are, not a liability. The next thing we want to discuss is the building equity by increasing diversity in emergency response teams. Building equity by increasing diversity in emergency response teams is just as important as taking care of our responders and gaining the trust and opening the lines of communication with the community. As technology, the community, in cities, states, and countries change, we must adapt and become a more diverse organization. As a whole, emergency services in Kentucky should intentionally recruit to support a diverse workforce that mirrors the community they serve to improve problem solving and communication during times of crisis. To help achieve this goal, Kentucky Emergency Services as a whole should ensure emergency plans and communications are designed to meet the needs of all community members, including multisensory and multilingual populations. Having a more diverse workforce that mirrors the community will allow emergency services to better understand those they serve and address the specific needs or concerns that outsiders might not see. Utilizing this diverse workforce would allow for a variety of perspectives, leading to more informed decisions and better solutions during a crisis. From a communication standpoint, better strategies and communications overall will ensure the safety messages resonate with all community members. Finally, having a more diverse workforce will allow emergency services, from police to emergency medical services personnel, to foster trust among citizens. In many communities throughout Kentucky and the United States, trust is a foundational building block for emergency service success. The final thing that we're going to discuss is training, professional development, and methods for preparing first responders and other firefighters for future disasters. Kentucky has experienced a significant number of disasters since 1980, reaching into the triple digits. Weather disasters have contributed to over $92 billion in losses, from winds to tornadoes and flooding, and the data suggests this number and the disasters will continue to climb. With a large amount of emergency services located throughout the state, training and preparation are of the utmost importance. It's what you do pre-disaster or pre-emergency. So it's all the same, whether it's personal or whether it's us, like the government or somebody in the response community. How can we become more resilient and take some of the powerful emergencies and disasters we have and recover faster or have less of an impact than they normally would? As a newly appointed Director of Emergency Management, we will continue training process or progress that has taken place over the past decade, utilizing tabletop exercises and scenarios. We'll hold multi-agency drills that will allow police, fire, EMS, and other local and federal resources the opportunity to work together, utilizing the NIMS command structure. Our goal over the next 5 years is to run, at minimum, 5 multi-agency drills throughout the state. Doing this will allow Kentucky Emergency Management to work with local and regional emergency services operations and fine-tune operations that take place during a response. On a professional development and singular training level, Kentucky Emergency Management will continue to encourage those that will be responding to emergencies to further their education and training. Opportunities currently exist within FEMA and other federal agencies that allow for training in NIMS and other command structures, furthering pre-hospital care and other topics that would be considered beneficial to everyone. As an organization, over the next 5 years, we will encourage those emergency responders throughout the state to research special teams and seek out mentorships with those currently on the teams to further their knowledge. Mentoring is a great opportunity to learn new skills, to gauge interest, and to start the path towards that particular individual's leadership goal. Given the current layout of the special teams and the response time to mobilize, we'll also research the potential expansion of those teams and the future placement. I want to take a moment to thank you for your attention and for your continued service to our community. You are part of a valuable team that I'm honored to be a part of. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to my office. Thank you.